There are moments when life shifts so suddenly that it feels like the ground beneath you disappears. One day everything is certain, steady, familiar, and the next the phone rings, the door closes, the silence begins. You look around at what's left and whisper, "God, what happened? Why didn't you stop this?" But what if the very thing you thought would destroy you was what God used to deliver you? What if what felt like rejection was actually divine protection? We often thank God for what He gives, but not for what He blocks. Yet His protection is often wrapped in confusion. We see loss. Heaven sees rescue. We see interruption. He sees interception. Sometimes the greatest act of love God can show is to keep us from what we think we want. Isaiah 55:8-9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways." That means there are battles you never fought because He stepped in first. There are paths you never walked because He closed them in mercy. You prayed for opportunity, but He gave you protection. You wanted connection, but He gave you separation. Because He knew that what looked like a blessing to you would become a burden tomorrow. We don't like God's no, but sometimes no is His most powerful yes. A yes to your safety, your calling, your peace. Think about Joseph again, betrayed by his brothers, sold, forgotten. For years it looked like every prayer failed. But what Joseph couldn't see was that every betrayal was a bridge. Every disappointment was a door. The prison was positioning. The pain was preparation. God's protection doesn't always stop the storm. It anchors you inside it. The same way Jesus didn't stop His disciples from entering the boat that night, even knowing the storm was coming. He let them sail into it. Why? Because protection doesn't mean avoidance, it means presence. When the waves rose, He was already in the boat. And when they feared the end, His voice calmed the wind. That's protection, not from, but through. Psalm 91:4 declares, "He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart." Wings don't block storms. They shelter through them. They create warmth in the cold, safety in the chaos. God's wings don't remove the wind. They give you a place to rest while it howls. Maybe you're living through something right now that feels unfair. Maybe you're in the middle of confusion that makes no sense. You're doing everything you can to hold on, but it feels like you're losing control. Can I tell you something? You're not falling apart. You're being carried. God's protection is not always loud. It's not always visible. Sometimes it's a quiet hand redirecting your path, closing doors before you even reach them. You think you missed your chance, but heaven knows you dodged destruction. If you could see the map of your life from God's view, you'd thank Him for every detour. Exodus 14:14 says, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." That verse doesn't sound powerful until you try to obey it. Because being still when everything inside you wants to fight, fix, and figure out, it's the hardest thing. But that's where protection lives. Stillness is trust in action. While you're panicking, heaven is planning. While you're fighting to understand, God is already 5 moves ahead, blocking attacks you'll never even know existed. There's a story in Daniel 6. Daniel obeyed God and ended up in the lion's den. It sounds unfair. Obedience led him to danger. But notice what God did. He didn't keep Daniel out of the den. He kept him safe inside it. The lions were real, but they were restrained. Protection didn't remove the threat. It removed its power. That's how God works. He doesn't always stop the fire. Sometimes He just steps into it with you, like He did with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in Babylon. They stood in flames, but they didn't burn, because the presence of God is stronger than the heat of any trial. When you understand that, fear loses its grip. Because even if the situation doesn't change, you realize you're still covered. Isaiah 54:17 says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Notice it doesn't say weapons won't form, it says they won't win. The attack may come, but it won't last. The storm may rage, but it won't sink you. The pain may wound you, but it won't define you. Because God's promise over your life is stronger than the plan of your enemy. There's a phrase in Psalm 23 that people often miss. "Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." A shepherd's rod wasn't only for guiding, it was for defending. It was a weapon used to strike predators that came for the sheep. That means when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you're not just comforted, you're guarded. Maybe the reason you're still standing after everything you've been through isn't luck. Maybe it's proof that you were never unprotected. If you could see the spiritual battles fought over your life, you'd never doubt God's care again. Angels stood where you couldn't. Grace covered what you didn't see. Mercy intercepted what was sent to break you. And yes, protection can feel painful, because to you it looks like loss. The friendship ended. The dream fell apart. The opportunity vanished. But what if the door that closed was the one that would have destroyed you? Sometimes God hides you for a season, not because you're forgotten, but because you're being finished. Moses was hidden in a basket before he became a leader. David was hidden in caves before he became a king. Even Jesus was hidden in Egypt before he began his ministry. Hiding is not neglect, it's protection. You're being shaped in secret for the moment God reveals you. So when you feel unseen, remember, it's better to be hidden by God than exposed too soon. Thessalonians 3:3 says, "The Lord is faithful. He will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one." Faithful. That means every time you've stumbled, he was there. Every time you've cried, he was near. Every time you thought you were alone, he was surrounding you. God's protection is not temporary. It doesn't expire when you fail. It's not dependent on your perfection. It's anchored in his promise. And when this season ends, and it will, you'll look back and realize that every closed door was direction. Every goodbye was guidance. Every delay was deliverance. The hand that blocked you was the same hand that blessed you. You are not unprotected. You are not unseen. You are not alone. Right now, heaven is covering you in ways you can't imagine. You are surrounded by love, guarded by grace, and carried by purpose. So stop fighting what God has already handled. Let peace do what panic never could. Let stillness become your shield, because even when you can't see the plan, you are still in the hands of the protector. Subscribe now, and let daily words of faith remind you, even in the darkest moments, the hand that holds the world is holding you too.